till the Nexus explodes.
Well, it starts right here in Champ Select Week 8. Day 1 kicks off. RMC Yeso, take it away.
All right, thank you so much, 4x4. A lot of you folks were definitely not circling this game on your calendar coming into this weekend. I get it, but I'm telling you right now, I think it's going to be more entertaining, more interesting, more compelling than you would have expected. Getting through the first phase of bans, a heavy focus to the bottom lane, and you said it, RMC, you felt like, you know, it was a nerf, but not enough to push Rel out of the meta. We were going to still see very high presence. Does get a ban here from Red, and they go for that first pick, Ivern, likely for ages.
Yeah, so, I mean, we still see the LeBlanc ban as well, so obviously the static shift nerfs don't really change much. For static shift users. Okay. So,
you want to talk about it? We already prepped it.
You know, on the green room, I'd said that one thing I really don't like that we're seeing a lot in CBLOL right now is the Kai'Sa blinded when Xayah is open. Kai'Sa right now 47% win rate in general, but specifically against Kai'Sa. Against Xayah, pardon me. Kai'Sa has only won 4. Remember, number of the day. 4 out of 15 games. Oh, it doesn't happen though. It's not the Xayah.
Whoa.
Oh, this is a change from Red. This is not the hyper-aggressive Titan we're used to seeing. Yes, you can run the Joggamore, and that is being set up with this Ivern pickup, but it changes a lot for Liberty right now.
Okay, and pairing it up with the bomb here, so you've got the disengage, you've got some of that protection to try and keep those targets off of this Kog'Maw. Of course, the traditional pairing with it is that Lulu, but Lulu has certainly fallen out of favor as of late due to some of the nerfs and the shifting meta in this bottom lane. So Red have locked in their bottom lane. Liberty responding possibly with that jungle matchup. Of course, Maokai and Sejuani have been very high priority, all split long, and it looks like it is going to be the Maokai here for Drake Hero to match up against Aegis's Ivern.
Yeah, Liberty with that super solid Jace, Kai'Sa, Maokai that we're seeing internationally right now set up for a potential poke comp with dive possibilities as well once you've softened them up. But I need to see from Liberty engage, because you are not going to be able to poke down through an Ivern, through a Braum, through a potential Orianna, because Envy has played Orianna, and that's how you build a Juggernaut composition, is multiple supports on the team. Liberty instead opting for the Azir ban for now. I'm very, very curious to see if they do try and target that Orianna as well.
Yeah, and of course, you know, the one thing Red lacking right now is engage. You've got disengage and safety for this Kog'Maw in spades, but nothing to get fights started. But, you know, you do have to note that you can play slow and try and play just around the poke ability of this Kog'Maw in fights. So keep an eye on what Red decides to do in the back half here of Champion Select. They're going to possibly take some engage tools off of the table for Liberty's bottom lane, as they have knocked off that Nautilus with a ban. Could hit something else here in the support position. That Rel pick, or Rel ban, I should say, makes even more sense when you see the Kog'Maw come out there for Titan. It's also going to be a Scion, so hitting a safe tank pick there for SKB in the top lane.
Yeah, and more importantly, also removing that engage for SKB, because we said before, Liberty will need to engage onto this Kog'Maw. They will not win a poke war if we do see double supports coming out for Red Canids. And you kind of mentioned for Red as well, you know, the Braum protection. They do, and the lack of engage for Red Canids, that can come out in the top lane. I'm expecting, with a Cassante coming out.
Oh! Are we going to get double? Because another matchup that you talked about was Renekton and Cassante when we were getting prepped for this game. And it is going to get locked in. So they're not making you wait, RMC, to start just handing out penalties left and right. Liberty going to get away with that Kai'Sa pick. But what are your thoughts on this top lane matchup?
Okay, so the reason why I was hesitating on that top side was because I do think both teams need engage, and Cassante and Renekton are not engaged. At best, they're secondary engage. They pull up after somebody else makes the action happen. And because of the Renekton pickup in the top lane, Red Canids need a stronger source of engage in the mid lane, hence the Nico. I like the pick. We're seeing a lot more Nico come into CBLOL now that it's not permaban. Liberty, though, they're still looking for a support right now, and like I'm thinking like something Leona Blitz. I gotta be honest, not a huge fan of this one, so I think you don't have a lot of good hook targets.
I mean, look, it like in theory, it makes sense, right? You're like, oh, we just hook the Kog'Maw, we nuke him, and we win. But the problem is, you've got to weave that hook between some very chunky fellows that are going to be frontlining for this Kog'Maw. I mean, I feel like you have massively misplayed as Red Canids if you've allowed Cavallo to sneak a hook in between a Renekton, Ivern, and Braum that are all likely more than happy to take that hook, because they're saying, hey, yeah, please, you know, deliver this Croc to your backline. He would love to be there.
Yeah, I'm fully with you. Let's rocket grab 4x4 back in here, and maybe he can shed some light on this, because I'm going to be honest, I'm not super high on the Liberty comp. Maybe you can change my mind.
Look, I mean, they have drafted something with some identity, right? Some poke. And if that poke with the Jace and the Kaisa can soften up these front lines, then it matters a little less who you hook. But I do agree that it is that very classic, like, what you see in lower elos when people are playing, you know, just engage champs, support champs. It's like, just because you can hook someone, like, there are correct targets to hook, right? I will say, if there is anything conventional about the way that Blitzcrank gets a hook onto Titan's Kog'Maw, like if it's just a straight up like face check sort of thing, Titan needs to log off. Because that should never happen with this composition. You can literally grow brushes, for crying out loud. You have frontline out the wazoo. You can block projectiles. You can spawn clones. There is no excuse for Titan to get hit by a Blitz hook. That's my analysis of the draft.
I think that makes a lot of sense for 4x4. I am very much on the same page. And let's hit the Rift for our first game of the day. 2 weeks, folks, until we're talking best of fives. There's still a lot of questions yet to be answered, especially in our standings here in the CBLOL. Gotta say, RMC, it really felt like Liberty kind of put their, you know, they kind of put that flag in the soil with those first 2 picks. They picked Jace, Kaisa, and said, we're going to play a poke comp, and Red went, sure you are.
Exactly, and I love the adaptation from Red Canids, because in the first place, sure, poke comps are good globally, but CBLOL specifically, they have struggled. The Brazilian teams are really good at engaging, and that just punishes a lot of these poke compositions. The delayed invade onto a Blitzcrank composition. This is Giga Brain. Usually you expect the Blitzcrank to invade. Nobody expects the Blitzcrank to get invaded. Do they know? Was there vision?
Cavallo may guess.
Know?
They're walking up here. They likely
they
throw
don't
a word over.
know.
No, he's just going to walk right in. And the problem is guess what? Braum, one of the best level ones as a support. His passive so strong, easily set up by his Q. They will walk away. They get the flash and ignite off of Cavallo. It only costs Frosty his heal, so that is a small victory here for Red at level 1.
Yeah, interesting note though about the supports, because Cavallo actually opted to go back to base because, well, Rocket Grab costs a lot of mana, like 1/3 of Blitzcrank's mana at level 1. And that's actually going to mess Reaper up a little bit, because notice Reaper now step all the way back. It's probably going to miss some of that early minion experience, whereas Frosty, a little bit less health, but as the Braum, you're very comfortable in this matchup. You can afford to be a little bit lower health if it gets you that early couple of minions experience, that level 2 advantage.
Certainly, and a matchup we will want to keep an eye on. I know you talked about, you know, the ability for Red to possibly isolate this top lane, get FNB on an island up against SKB. Let's just talk about this Renekton v Cassante in a vacuum, in the straight 1v1. Which way do you see this going? Who do you like in this matchup?
So what I really was disliking in CBLOL draft before this is Frosty doesn't get tagged by turret. If Frosty doesn't hit turret, Frosty wins every time. Back to the top lane. So we were seeing Cassante Renekton handshakes where the Renekton was blinded, and then teams were picking Cassante, and that almost never worked out. Cassante loses that particular trade. Renekton is a huge lane bully. So I'm much happier to see when Liberty picks the Cassante blind and Red picks the Renekton, especially when it is FNB, who is such a strong laner. I expect to see FNB win out early trades, bully that Cassante early, and if you get a big enough lead, then sure, Cassante eventually hits the point where he can match Renekton, unless Renekton's popping Dominus, but that doesn't happen when you shut them down early. So I'd love to see Aegis pile up to that top lane, pardon me, try and set up some ganks, but for now it's all about the bot lane as both junglers.
Drake here is going to be spotted. Another good rocket grab there from Cavallo. They'll get some damage onto Frosty, but not anything significant as Drake Hero walks into this lane, quickly followed by Aegis, and will back away. Of course, we're also going to have to keep a very keen eye on SKB, because teleport flanks from this Cassante to try and kidnap Titan's Kog'Maw are going to be very important if and when we get to that team fighting phase for Liberty. He's going to be very integral to them getting access to the biggest priority target on this red lineup. Frosty was to flash over the wall there. Another good rocket grab. So, you know, look, we were questioning the Blitzcrank pick, rightfully so, but Cavallo at least making things happen with it here in the early game.
Yeah, and they have to, right? So with Liberty's composition, I mentioned I'm not a huge fan of it. I do think it's going to struggle later, poke into this much tankiness, and the fact that you can't really find your way onto Kog'Maw, barring Reaper, just absolutely diving that backline and somehow isolating Titan. So instead what Liberty needs to do is play the early game, which has been what they've been doing last week in both their games. The problem is, Liberty loses their laning matchups, and that's understandable against a team like Red Canids, and we're seeing CS discrepancies in every single lane. The way Liberty have played the early game well is when Drake Hero gets aggressive, when Cavallo gets aggressive, and they're roaming around making small skirmishes happen. So for Cavallo, the sooner he can get out of that lane as Blitzcrank, the better I think it's going to go for Liberty. If they're stuck in these lane assignments for an extended period of time, Red get the early game they want, and then they get to practice that mid game that the coaches were talking about.
All right, we will continue to keep an eye on Drake here and how he is moving around the map. Recall for SKB will spend his teleport to get back to this lane. FNB has been crashing wave after wave, even proxying some waves here in the early parts of this matchup.
It's only going to get worse from there. I mean, FNB's proxy
unfortunately.
before level 6. Yeah, once he gets dominance, he actually could win that 2v2. Interesting to note as well that SKB didn't just rush the Bramble Vest as soon as possible. Actually kind of stopped in for that chainmail instead. So a bit more armor, and partially it's what gold you have in your pocket. But a lot of times against Renekton, you want to get that healing cut early, because then you stop him from being able to win out a lot of those trades, from winning out the sustained fight. And because you don't have that, it allows FNB to proxy even harder than he otherwise would have.
So you're telling me that SKB is just not going to have a good time?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. And it actually is it's super unfortunate for SKB, because in Academy, SKB was actually winning out a lot of the 1v1 duels, and he was making his name in these isolated lanes. And I don't know how used he is to having that isolated lane and being on the losing end of that matchup. Now, with TP Sound, the top laners are stuck up there, and
And be caught out here momentarily. Cavallo has gotten up here. Ultimate will come out. Piloto arriving here as well. Reaper here too. Envy's actually going to take an out. First blood goes to Reaper's Kaisa. Well played there from Liberty, catching out the Red Canids mid laner.
And what did we say? So Liberty just needs to get off their lanes. If they can, they can make action happen. Envy as well. For a second I was like, did they catch Envy or did Envy catch them? But you can see that Red just kind of left Envy that. He said, this is not worth rotating for. We're going to keep Titan in that bot lane, farming for now. And hey, Liberty's going to get the pick, but we know they can't take the dragon from us. This, however, feels a step further. Red, with Aegis and Frosty, the two kind of lower damage members, are starting up this Drake, and Liberty are just letting them do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the timings of those recalls, Piloto going back, the Reaper backing off of the aggression there, was looking for the recall, but it got stopped by Frosty. The timings just do not work out there for Liberty, and that will mean this first strike does go over to Red. Slight gold lead, but thanks to that first blood, that gap has closed here for Liberty, but they'll add little Infernal Drake on top of that to build on it, and that early lead. Cavallo gonna walk in here, a little bit of an emote, but Smite will come through. There's Drake over to Red. Drake here, though, you notice immediately trying to get control of the top side of this river, but with Aegis quickly rotating to mid, actually Drake here backs off of that Scuttle Crab, recognizing that he may not want to get caught here, not knowing where FNB is at.
Yeah, and that's the biggest problem right now. Because FNB is on an early game champion and has that CS and experience lead, Herald's actually a lot harder for Liberty to take, and that's why I was a little bit concerned when Liberty just seeded that dragon on the bot side, despite being able to find the pick onto Envy. So Red should have a good time, full control of this top lane, and in the mid lane, Envy is probably going to start pushing out as well to make sure that they have first move advantage. In fact, is actually already in the process of winning.
All right, Rift Herald started here. Drake Hero in the area, just pinging 6 as well, so has the Nature's Grasp available. to maybe respond, but a little too late here. Red is going to pick up their second neutral objective of this early game. Rift Herald going to be locked in, and the big problem here is that it's very likely that Aegis quickly goes up to top lane and tries to dump more gold into FNB. If they could crash a wave and drop Rift Herald there, that Renekton's going to be a problem really, really quick.
Yeah, and Liberty, I think they made the right response considering that they couldn't really contest either of those objectives. Piloto instantly roams down to the bot, and they were looking to set up a 4-man dive onto Titan and Frosty. And this I very much appreciate from Red Canids. They're not saying we're just going to outmuscle you. I could see a world in which Frosty and Titan try and stand at the turret and trade 2 for 2. It would not be ideal, but it would be very red. Instead, very measured, tempered play from this squad. They go, okay, we will back off, we will seed that plate, we will seed the wave. But we will not die, and we will take your time. And Red are fully committed to scaling into the mid game.
Yeah, and I mean, this is, you know, exactly what I was looking for from this team. We know that they can hands check just about any roster in the CBLOL, and especially, unfortunately, you know, a Liberty Academy roster coming up to play on stage. But I want to see that A to B to C plan here, and they draft for this scaling composition. They draft for this Juggernaut, and they're playing around it well. Slow early game, taking some good neutral objectives, responding to that pick in mid. I like what I've seen from Red so far.
We're really embracing the whole Sesame Street thing, aren't we? Brought to you by the number 4, and we're running through our ABCs right now.
Yes, sir.
Red is speed running this one because they look so clean and exactly as you predicted. Aegis into the top lane, but it's not FNB up there. They're actually funneling more gold into Titan, which it makes sense. If you want to push the early game, you give it to FNB. If you're scaling to the mid to late, get it onto Titan. And Red already said they're skilling for playoffs to try to make sure that they do have other options other than just hands check, we'll crush you.
Yeah, and this is an incredible start now for Titan. Important to note, Static Shiv is online for Reaper, but that is more plate gold, first tower for Titan as well, as we just approach the 11-minute mark. So this Kog'Maw is going to have that first item here very quickly. We see some stats here for Static Shiv. Talk to me about the changes that we saw to this item in patch 13.14.
Okay. So I'm going to pretend I can read Portuguese there, and it's talking about the items, the fact that attack speed has been buffed on Static Shiv. So they gave a bit more base stats, but they reduced the lightning damage from 250 to 450 scaling as levels go to cap at 350. And most importantly, the first 7 levels, you don't actually gain anything on that Static Shiv, which makes sense because you only build Static Shiv around that level 6, level 7 mark, while level 5 to 7 depending on which lane you're in there. So it kind of makes a lot of sense, and it's a bit better for your early skirmishes now, but it doesn't wave clear as well. So for Reaper, yes, it's kind of good. I don't actually know what the break point is and whether Reaper can still clear the back wave with Static Shiv if you're just sitting on that Shiv. And if you can't, this actually makes life a lot harder for Reaper in this lane, and it just doubles down on the fact that Liberty, they want early skirmishes, they want to fight, they don't want to farm.
So one question I have for you here is, it looks like the indication is it's going to be a more AP focused Kai'Sa here. We've had the conversation quite a bit as of late. I know you and I have both personally been a big fan of the AD carries that have been going more of the AD focused route, rushing that Kraken Slayer and going back to a more traditional Kai'Sa build. In this game in particular, when you have that Jace right next to you in the composition you're playing up against, how do you like the AP Kai'Sa build in this situation for Reaper?
Oh, that's precisely why you build APs, because you have that 80 damage coming up from the lane. And the other thing, too, is that when you pick the Kai'Sa Jace, you're actually going for poke comp, generally speaking. That's why you pick the Maokai as well. That's the roots of your poke comp, disengage plus range. Maokai even has a little bit of poke as well to kind of double down on that. So Liberty, they know their win cons. Now, the only problem I have with that is that poke comps traditionally haven't worked very well in CBLOL. And they're very, very high difficulty execution comps, and Liberty is attempting to do that against a team which is, at least on paper, better than them. It's a really good experience, and I'm waiting for Liberty to try and pull that comp off somewhere. But to make it work, they have to group up.
I'll tell you what,
that is not
I respect their willingness to go for a difficult to execute comp here, as Envy is going to get dove at the top side, does lock down a few, and will take down Drake here. The teleport has arrived here from FNB. The Reaper with the killer instinct over the wall. They're going to be able to take down the Croc. That's going to be some new leather shoes, but SKB is still going to fall. He unfortunately went the wrong direction, and FNB will trade it back. Reaper caught, and even more. Piloto will get taken out. Frosty going to lock down this Kaisa. Aegis easily going to be able to pick up the kill. It's actually an ace as Frosty knocks him down in an unfortunate dive for Liberty top lane. It all goes wrong.
I will say that is not how a Pokem's supposed to work, Liberty. They went diving there. And I've got to just think that the disguise was successful from Envy. They thought that was Titan. If that is Titan, that's great for the kill. No, wait, they saw Envy change. So this becomes so risky. You're going for a Nico, one of the best counter engagers, and the hook as well actually kind of shafted them on that play. Because unfortunately, Maokai was the one taking the damage, and because you pull, it wasn't the Jace that got tagged, it was the Maokai, and so it kind of backfires. Everything after this was a bit of clownery. FNB's TP was kind of risky, but it was just to buy time for the rest of the team to come in, and because of the wave clear from FNB under that turret there, because you cleared all the minions, the turret was the single biggest damage dealer in that fight for Red Canids.
Yeah, top lane tier 1 with a huge assist in that fight. All 5 of Red's kills coming in that ace response to the tower dive. Quick look there at the tower plates, 6-4 in favor of Red in this early game. And of course, they did get that first tower thanks to that Rift Tail drop in the top lane, dumping that gold into Titan. Now 1-0-1, has the Blade of the Ruin King in his back pocket. So already this is going to start to be a problem. This Kog'Maw really going to make things hurt in these team fights, so keep an eye on Titan's position here. Drake here, though, finally able to get one of those neutral objectives, locking down that second Rift Hero, but SKB in trouble, gets locked down by Envy, and he's just going to get CC'd into oblivion. Aegis picks up the kill there on the Liberty top laner.
That was a slow grind. Oh, this might be a fast one.
Ooh, Reaper with the killer instinct over the wall to try and get away from Titan there. Drake Hero is going to drop Nature's Grasp, and Reaper will get out of trouble, but man, this Kog'Maw is already a problem.
Yeah, and I mean, FNB showed up, but let's be honest, Titan was just winning that 1v1 already anyway, so that is a little scary. That's why they're funneling all their gold towards Titan. But yeah, so I want to go back to what you mentioned earlier, because it just struck me. You're right, all 5 of those kills for Red just came on that topside dive. So is this Liberty's new thing now with this squad? They're going to just go 3-0 up in the early game and then flop?
Maybe, unfortunately. Definitely not the way, not exactly the way you want your early games to go. It also is important to note when you're talking about that, static shift. It provides combat stats and it's a solid item, but in terms of like that first item power spike in the 1v1, Titan's winning that all day. That is definitely more of a wave clear in push item than it is, hey, I'm going to win this fight against the opposing AD carry. So Reaper's definitely going to be waiting for that second item to really think about taking serious fights up against Titan. Who knows? It might be a little too late by that point. So we'll have to keep an eye on the Liberty AD carry here. Cavallo looking for the hook, does land onto Titan. Can they take out the Kog'Maw? He goes low.
He's still alive!
He's still alive, and he will finally go down. The kills goes to Cavallo, but can Red turn this around? SKB trying to retreat. Cavallo will get taken out. Dash over the wall there from SKB. Does get slowed by Frosty, and the team just dog piles their odd to the Cassante. He will go down. Kill credit there to FNB. It's a 1-for-2 trade in favor of Red.
And this is a landmark moment in this game, because when your AD carry, when Kog'Maw gets hooked, dies, and you still win the fight, that's a problem.
Is going to die. He messed around and he found out, RMC.
He did indeed. Envy didn't even have to burn flash. That was just the protocol. And yeah, that's scary because Liberty got the best engage they could hope for in a 5v5. They find Titan isolated, burst him down very, very quickly. Titan gets minimal damage off in that fight. I think his passive did more damage than he's actually able to output. And still, Liberty loses, which means from here on out, Liberty just can't win any team fights. Frosty, unfortunately, kind of went the wrong way. You do need to bodyguard this Kog'Maw no matter what. If Frosty had been hooked there, that's an engage. But when Titan gets hooked, that's a pit, and that goes poorly. So you can see like 2 autos, I think, from Titan, and that was kind of it. But the sustained damage they can put out, and FNB is the big, actually, sustained damage dealer right now for this team. He's melee. So technically, you can try and kite him out, but if it doesn't work, then
okay, the definition of insanity is trying things over and over, expecting a different result. We'll see if it works out here. As a dive in the top lane, a lot of damage as FNB flashes over the wall. Frosty will get taken out. And does Reaper take the 1v1 against the Croc? He's going to do it, and he's going to take him down. Shut down gold there for the Kaisen. Hey, not dead, can't quit, says Liberty.
True, true. That was much better executed from Liberty this time because they could take the turret down. Remember we said last time, yeah, so the biggest damage dealer in that dive was Red's turret. So this time they focus it down nice and early. And we didn't get to see this part of the setup. Frosty thought, oh, I'm shading FNB. We can stop the dive. No, you can't. And look, Cavallo, Piloto, they actually ignore FNB initially to focus down the turn. Once that goes down, the fight's easier. It's not easy, because FNB almost killed people on the turnaround, but it was easier. And unfortunately for FNB, he kind of dashed the wrong way as well. He moved towards Reaper, and that kind of sealed his fate.
Really just well played by Liberty, focus firing the red carry in that fight. Top lane tier 1 tower. Just heady micro play in that team fight, and it bodes well for them. Important to note, though, now Red stacked up with 3 elemental drakes, looking for that Hextech soul here in 4 minutes time. So they're definitely going to be looking to set up vision control in that bot side river. But Liberty looking to get something back themselves, looking to close this gold gap, which despite the kind of tear that Red has gone on since that ace in the top lane, Liberty have closed it up. It is a 500 gold lead here at 20 minutes for Red Canids.
Yeah, and you mentioned Yeso, right? It's the sort of focus for both of these teams. Red is focusing the dragon stacking. They're focusing on the skill. They will see these outer turrets. They don't care about that. Whereas Liberty, I love their response. They're not trying to continue the isolated lanes. They recognize that, hey, we are not winning these 1v1s, these 2v2s. They just get the 5-man goon squad, and they're just roaming around. They're saying, Red, you want to take a dragon? Fine. You take that, we'll take a turret. You want to look at Herald? We'll take a turret somewhere else. You want to look at set up vision for Baron? That's fine. We don't care. We're just going to keep moving around. That's what's keeping them close in goal. But now that we're at that soul point in 3 minutes, Liberty can't afford to be trading and seeding that for turrets anymore. They will need to show up to that fight. And that's when we get to see the Red composition do what it's meant to do. 5v5 team fight.
Well, I'll tell you what, RMC, Liberty's poke is officially online. Both Piloto and Reaper on 2 items. They're really going to start to hurt here. The question is now, is it enough? If Liberty sets things up in that straight, 5v5 in mid, we're going to try and poke you out and force you out of this area, we're going to get an answer soon on whether that poke is going to be enough, because in Champions League, RMC, we were doubtful with the way that Red had drafted, but that is going to be a rocket grab there under Frosty, but hard to do damage when he throws up that wall. Frosty and that Braum dealing with the rocket grab there of Cavallo really well. And here comes Liberty. They're setting up. Red looking to respond. They want to protect this mid lane tier 1.
All I can hear in my head when you hook Frosty is, wee! Like Frosty's like, I don't mind, let's go, I'm in. I can always hop back out if I don't like this ride. I can walk away, which is what Frosty did after throwing up that unbreakable. And yeah, so you talk about the poke coming online. Here's my problem. Yes, poke is theoretically online.
Sure.
But look at how much damage that poke's putting down right now. It's not hitting the softer targets. It's not punching through the tanks. And so it's kind of, it's like your server network's online, but your PC's offline. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of there, but it's not doing anything just yet.
Yeah, and I hear you. And that was the big question was, would the poke be enough? Because Red did a great job, right? Liberty declared very early on in this draft what they were trying to do. First and second pick, Jace and Kaisa says, we're going to play a poke comp. And the nice thing about that first pick, Ivern, is it is already solid into poke comps, but it's flexible. You can play a lot of different things. And Red immediately pivoted and said, we're going to respond. A lot of damage here. Initially, they're on SKP. The Cassante is down, but they have taken down the Nico. Huge pick there onto Envy, and Red may have to back away. A lot of brushes set down here by Aegis. The little poke coming out from Reaper. Do they go for this? Redemption will come through. A little bit of sustain here for the Red lineup. Good catch there onto one, but again, it's Frosty. He doesn't much mind getting caught by the rocket grab. Daisy walking under tower does get taken down. How long does Red want to stay? They want this tower. Can Liberty punish them for staying as long as they have?
Rocket grab probably at a time close to 15-second cooldown, so Red know exactly what they can play around. But right now, I'm gonna be honest, it's not about the poke. And the turrets are actually the hardest thing. We saw a failed turret die from Liberty. Now we're seeing Red struggle against these turrets as well. And it's due to Cavallo. It's due to this Blitzcrank being able to pull you under turret in isolated situations. What's kind of scary too is we talk about poke for Liberty. but Red aren't here to poke. You poke them, they will just bite your whole fist off. That's what happened to SKB. The tankiest member of Liberty right now got killed under his turret for attempting to poke. So these teams kind of fierce, and that's CBLOL way. That's why poke doesn't work well, because Red will fully commit if you so much overstep the slightest bit while trying to poke.
Yeah, and Red have so many tools that if you put that one toe out of line, they can lock you down from 100 to 0. It doesn't matter how tanky you are. A lot of damage there on the FNB initially, and that is a very low Renekton here. We'll see what kind of sustain he can get. Daisy tanking up a lot of damage, does get taken out. Good rocket grab there initially, but Envy trying to get to the back line. Does lock down a few, but Reaper able to stay out of trouble. Now backing away is SKB. He's very low, but Cavallo has gone down. That's going to be the Cassante falling as FNB picks up another kill while Reaper and Piloto survive. The front line has been disintegrated, and Liberty has to back away. It is Hex Tech Soul for Red Canids.
Can I just point out FNB's health right now?
Please.
He started that fight at 20-30% health. He ends that fight at about 60% health. The healing is insane, and that's unfortunate for Liberty. This is why they can't team fight, but they had no choice because it was Hex Tech Soul, and now Red, with those kills, not only gets Soul, they've run straight to Baron. SKB is down for 10 seconds and has no TP when he respawns.
And that's one reason you probably wish that SKB had elected for that Bramble Vest early on to try and cut some of the sustain, because he's getting focused early in these fights, but he's not taking down some of that sustain from FNB. They have caught Titan momentarily, but not enough to take him down, as here comes the Croc. Baron is burning. About a 1,300 health on that will fall. Secured by Red Canids. Liberty has to back away. Drake Hero, they lost. Not much more. Hook over the wall from Cavallo. Will not land, just a little too slow. Will not find a member of Red Canids. And Red, unfortunately, getting everything that they want.
And now from here on out, Yeso, in team fights, there's one person you need to watch. Envy, very flashy, very exciting for his engage. Not the person you need to watch. FNB, he's having fun. Just look at that. Still not the person to watch. It's all about Titan. If Liberty can't kill Titan, that's Jinx levels of Cogwall right now. Red will just run over the fight as long as Titan lives. And unfortunately, in all these fights so far, Liberty has not been able to get Titans. Either Blitz Hook from Cavallo or bust. And Cavallo's been doing an amazing job. But as we said, the game gets harder and harder to do that, especially once Titan actually has a front line attacking in front of him. He's not wandering around the jungle on his own.
Also, Cavallo, I need you to know, you go straight to jail if you rocket grab a full health Renekton on top of your half health, no mana Kaisa, okay? Reaper, very lucky to get out with his life there. Did have his summoner spells, but would have been very close to spending them if FNB really wanted to commit, because it might have been a 1v3. FNB probably still gets 2 kills before you can maybe take him down.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't get the kills, he sets up. He does so much damage. And even worse is that if Liberty are stuck in position, that's when Titan really gets to go to town on the slow push coming in. Still a minute and a half on this Baron push. Technically, Baron's like 3 minutes, but realistically, because of the setup, you still have the majority of the Baron effective Baron buff.
1-4 setup here from Red. FNB getting those Baron up minion waves crashing into that mid-tier 1. A lot of damage initially into Frost, but FNB gonna slice and dice over the wall to try and get the flank going. Cavallo gonna take a lot of initial damage, and down goes the Blitzcrank. Kill credit there to FNB. Envy gonna get in, will lock down one, but isn't able to catch Reaper, but it isn't gonna much matter as they chop the tree down and looking for more. SKB has fallen. It's now up to the poke. The carries for Liberty to keep them alive. It is 2v5 in the base, and Red have their eyes on a sub 30-minute win. Not the cleanest, but still a solid performance here from the team. They're going to get on to Reaper, lock him down. The Kaisa has fallen. It's just up to Piloto, and that's going to be it. Titan does not care. He's going to take your life. He's going to take your base, and Red Canids will take a win over Liberty.
Yeah, so it might not be the cleanest in that